A moment. Sometimes, all it takes to change a destiny is just a moment. For Adara Okoro, that moment came with the roar of a sports car engine and the smell of expensive Arabica coffee. She was just trying to get to work, her mind still calculating whether this month's salary would be enough to buy her little sister a new pair of shoes. For Kemi Adebayo, it was just another boring Tuesday morning. And she decided to create a little fun for herself. The collision was almost non-existent, but the coffee stain was real. Scorching hot. Spreading. A dark blemish on the white apron Adara had spent all night washing. Kemi's words burned even hotter than the coffee. "Watch where you're going, sweetie," she purred, her voice dripping with condescension. "Some things are too expensive for you to even stand near." Kemi walked away, leaving Adara frozen in humiliation. She believed she had won. An ant had just been crushed under the heel of her designer shoe. She was wrong. Because across the street, in an unmarked car, Emeka Ojo didn't just see. He made a decision. Kemi Adebayo thought she had just taught a waitress a lesson. But she had no idea she had just ignited a war she had no chance of winning. Because the woman she had just humiliated was about to become someone the whole world would have to look up to. The sky over Crestwater Bay was still sleepy, casting a violet indigo hue upon the gentle waves. But in the small apartment at the end of the street, Adara Okoro's day had begun long ago. The soft yellow light cast her shadow on the wall, a silent, graceful figure preparing for a new day. She gently placed a carefully packed lunchbox into Ife's old backpack, filled with the best fried rice she could make from the few ingredients she had left. "Sister Adara," a clear voice called from the bedroom doorway. Ife, a 7-year-old girl with big, round eyes identical to her sister's, stood there, rubbing her eyes. "My shoes are tight again." Adara turned, a warm smile hiding a sigh. She knelt down, carefully slipping the worn-out sneakers onto her sister's feet. They were indeed tight. "It's okay, my love," she whispered, tying the laces. "You just focus on studying hard. Your A's are the brightest, most beautiful shoes I've ever seen." Ife giggled, wrapping her arms around her sister's neck. "I love you. I love you too," Adara replied, kissing her sister's forehead. "More than anything in the world." That love was her fuel. It was the reason she worked 14-hour days at the Serene Vista Resort, the most glamorous jewel of Crestwater Bay. It was a completely different world, a place where the price of a bottle of wine could feed the two of them for a month. On the bus to work, Adara looked out the window. Crestwater Bay was changing, old fishermen's houses, huddled next to gleaming glass villas. The salty smell of the sea mingled with the scent of expensive perfume. It was a place of contrasts, and Adara always felt stuck in the middle. She belonged here, and yet she didn't belong at all. At the same time, on the top floor of the very resort where Adara worked, in a penthouse with a panoramic view of the entire bay, Kemi Adebayo threw her phone onto the bed with an exasperated groan. "I don't care," she snapped at her assistant on the phone. "I said the kale smoothie had to be 22 degrees Celsius. 23 is too warm. Do you understand? Fire her. I don't want to see such an incompetent person on my team again." Kemi hung up and walked to the massive glass window. Below, the world stretched out like a toy set. She was the daughter of Solomon Adebayo, the man who had turned Crestwater Bay from a dull fishing village into this gold mine. To Kemi, everything and everyone here was her family's property. They existed to serve her, to please her, and when they failed, they had to be eliminated. It was that simple. She took a sip of water, her cold eyes scanning the road leading to the resort. Another boring day. Perhaps she should go down to the Azure Tide restaurant, give a few staff members a hard time for fun. And then, she saw a small figure hurrying towards the gate. A waitress. Perfect. In another corner of Crestwater Bay, in a black, logo-free, unassuming sedan, Emeka Ojo was reviewing the landscape design for the resort's East Garden. He was the silent brain behind the beauty of the Serene Vista, an investor and architect who believed that true luxury lay not in opulence, but in the dignity it brought to people, both guests and staff. He looked up, gazing at the resort he had poured so much of himself into. It was beautiful, but he also knew that within that beauty were stories, lives that his blueprints could never touch. His mother had been a laborer just like them. She had taught him that a person's worth is not measured by their bank account, but by the integrity in their heart. His eyes unintentionally fell on the entrance, a ruby-red sports car, a young woman in uniform, and an impending disaster. That was the moment when three worlds collided. Adara had almost arrived. She could see the familiar glass door of the staff entrance. Just a few more steps. But then, the roar of the sports car's engine startled her. Kemi Adebayo's car parked right in front of her. Adara quickly stepped aside to make way. Kemi got out, and like a slow-motion film, Adara saw her smirk. The collision was almost non-existent, just a light nudge, but the coffee cup in Kemi's hand tilted with deliberate intent. The hot liquid spilled all over the white front of Adara's apron. The stinging pain of the burn hit her instantly, but it was nothing compared to the pain of humiliation. The dark brown stain spread like an accusation. "Watch where you're going, sweetie." Kemi's voice rang out, cold and condescending, loud enough for those nearby to hear. "Some things are too expensive for you to even stand near." A few giggles came from nearby guests. Adara's face flushed. She wanted to disappear. She wanted to scream. But she just stood there, her hands clenched, staring at the stain that seemed to be burning through her self-respect. Kemi shrugged, tossed the paper cup into a nearby trash can, and strolled inside, leaving Adara alone amidst curious and pitying glances. After a few silent seconds, Adara took a deep breath. "Don't cry," she told herself. "Absolutely do not cry here." She turned and walked quickly towards the staff restroom, her heart pounding like a drum in her chest. She tried to rub the stain under cold water, but it only made the spot spread further. A failure. She would have to face her manager, Mr. Babatunde, looking like this. As expected, Mr. Babatunde, a perpetually stern middle-aged Nigerian man, stopped her in the hallway. His eyes swept from Adara's pale face down to the large stain on her apron. "Okoro," his voice was low and displeased. "What is this? You know the rules about uniforms. We are running a 5-star resort, not a roadside diner." "Sir, I'm sorry," Adara mumbled. "It was an accident." "I don't want to hear excuses," he interrupted. "Go change into a spare uniform immediately. And don't let me see this happen again." "Yes, sir." Adara bowed her head and hurried towards the changing room, feeling as if the weight of the world was on her shoulders. From his car, Emeka Ojo had witnessed it all. He saw Adara being humiliated, saw her struggle to maintain her composure, and saw her being reprimanded by her manager. He didn't see a clumsy waitress. He saw a resilient soldier. He saw his mother's image in that girl's eyes. Anger rose within him, cold and controlled. He had built this place on respect. Kemi Adebayo's actions were not just a personal insult to Adara. They were an insult to everything he believed in. He picked up his phone and dialed a familiar number. "Hello," a voice answered on the other end. "David, it's me," Emeka said, his voice frighteningly calm. "There's a waitress at the Azure Tide. I want to know everything about her. Her name, her situation. Everything." He paused for a moment, his eyes still fixed on the door where Adara had just disappeared. "Her name is Adara Okoro." The humiliation from the morning incident followed Adara throughout her shift. Every glance seemed to be on her. Every whisper seemed to be about her. But Adara wouldn't let herself break. She clenched her fists, turning shame into determination. She wiped every table with double the meticulousness, smiled at every guest with twice the sincerity, and moved through the restaurant with intense focus. She would not let Kemi Adebayo's actions or a stain on her uniform define her. Finally, when her shift ended, Adara dragged her feet to the changing room, exhausted both physically and mentally. She opened her locker door, bracing herself to face the stained apron. But it wasn't there. Instead, a brand new, neatly folded uniform lay on the shelf. Its fabric was softer and of much better quality than her old one. Next to it was a small insulated bag. Adara hesitantly opened it. Inside was a hot meal, fragrant with the smell of jollof rice and grilled chicken. It was a full, hearty meal. And then she saw it. A small note tucked into the uniform's sleeve. The handwriting was slanted, strong, and clear. Your worth is not defined by the clothes you wear. Adara's eyes widened in astonishment. She looked around the empty changing room. Who? Why? 1,000 questions swirled in her head. Was it a mistake? A joke? But no, this was her locker. This dinner, this uniform, this note. They were for her. She didn't know who sent them, but for the first time that day, a warm, shy smile appeared on her lips. In the midst of a bitter day, someone had given her a little sweetness. In the following days, Adara worked with a newfound energy. The mysterious note was like an invisible shield, protecting her from the whispers and stares. She was no longer the victim of a cruel joke. She was the keeper of a kind secret. She excelled at her job. When a family of tourists complained loudly about their mixed-up order, it was Adara who calmly handled the situation. She apologized sincerely, offered a complimentary dessert for the children, and quickly coordinated with the kitchen to correct the order. The initially difficult guest smiled and left a generous tip. None of this escaped the notice of Emeka Ojo. He sat at a secluded table in the corner of the restaurant, wearing a baseball cap and sunglasses, looking like any other guest. He was there, watching her. He saw how she worked, how she treated everyone with respect, even when they didn't respect her. He saw the intelligence and grace in how she handled a crisis. This girl didn't just have resilience, she had talent. That talent was being wasted as a waitress. A few days later, Adara was called into Mr. Babatunde's office. Her heart pounded. What was it now? She walked in, bracing for the worst. But Mr. Babatunde was smiling, a rare smile. "Okoro, have a seat," he said, gesturing to the chair opposite his desk. "I've been watching you lately. The way you handled the Henderson's family last week was truly professional." Adara was surprised. "Thank you, sir." "Don't call me sir anymore," he said. "I want you to start thinking bigger. We have an opening for a guest relations trainee at the main lobby. The job requires tact, problem-solving skills, and a positive attitude. I think you have all of that. Higher pay, more responsibility. The position is yours, if you want it." Adara couldn't believe her ears. From a waitress on the verge of being fired to a position in the main lobby, tears of joy welled up in her eyes. I accept. Thank you so much." Adara's joy, however, was a thorn in someone else's side. Funke, an older waitress, who had worked at the resort for 5 years, was furious. She had always been eyeing a higher position, and now, a new girl, a fellow Nigerian, had surpassed her. "A trainee?" Funke whispered to the other staff during their break. She must have done something to get on the boss's good side. These pretty young girls are so manipulative these days. Funke's jealousy didn't stop at malicious words. It grew into a plan for revenge. She knew an opportunity would come, and she wouldn't miss it. That opportunity came a week later when the resort welcomed an extremely important VIP guest, a renowned food critic whose opinion could make or break the Azure Tide's reputation. The guest's profile had a line in red text: "Severe nut allergy." Adara, in her new role, was responsible for preparing the guest's check-in process, including inspecting the welcome gift basket. She had carefully checked the ingredient list of every single snack. Everything was safe. But Funke had made her move. When Adara had to step away for a moment to answer a call, Funke slipped into the preparation room. Quick as a flash, she swapped in an almond chocolate bar into the gift basket, while also cleverly deleting the allergy note from the reservation system on the computer. The disaster struck that evening. A blood-curdling scream from the VIP guest's room echoed down the hallway. Medics were called immediately. Fortunately, the guest had used an EpiPen in time and was taken to the hospital safely, but his rage was far from safe. All blame fell on Adara. She stood before Mr. Babatunde, who was pacing his office like a caged tiger. His face was red with anger. "I trusted you, Adara," he yelled. "One mistake. Just one mistake like this could destroy the entire reputation we've built. Do you have any idea who that guest is?" "Sir, I swear," Adara sobbed, her voice trembling. "When I checked, There was no note about an allergy in the file. And I checked the gift basket so carefully. So, you're saying the most famous food critic in the world is lying? Mr. Babatunde roared. Or did a ghost sneak in and change everything? Stop making excuses, Okoro. You're fired. The word fired hit Adara like a bolt of lightning. Her world collapsed. Her sister, the rent, her future, all gone up in smoke. Just then, the office door opened. David, Emeka Ojo's assistant, walked in, his face perfectly calm. Mr. Babatunde, David said politely but firmly. I think there's been a misunderstanding. Before you make a final decision, perhaps you should review the security camera footage from the preparation room and the front desk this morning. Mr. Babatunde frowned but nodded reluctantly. David connected his laptop to the large screen in the office. The footage was crystal clear. It showed Adara carefully inspecting the gift basket. It showed her leaving to take a phone call. And then, it showed Funke sneaking in, quickly swapping the chocolate bar, and then moving to the computer at the front desk, deleting a line of text. Every one of her actions was recorded. The air in the room froze. Mr. Babatunde's mouth hung open, speechless. Adara stared at the screen, tears streaming down her face, but this time they were tears of relief. She had been vindicated. Mr. Babatunde turned to Adara, the anger on his face replaced by deep regret. Adara, I am truly sorry. I was wrong not to believe you. She just shook her head, still too shocked to say anything. Funke was fired immediately and escorted off the resort property. The news spread like wildfire. The staff who had once whispered behind Adara's back now looked at her with a mixture of respect and guilt. That evening, Adara stood alone in the main lobby, looking out at the sparkling night sea. She had been through a battle, and she had not lost. But she knew she wasn't alone. Someone had given her the new uniform. Someone had sent her dinner. And someone, a powerful person, had just saved her career and her future. She didn't know who it was, but she could feel their presence, like a guardian angel watching over her from the shadows. And for the first time since setting foot in Crestwater Bay, Adara felt a feeling she had almost forgotten. Hope. Being vindicated earned Adara the respect of her colleagues, but the mystery of her guardian angel remained. She worked in her new role with complete professionalism and dedication, her grace lighting up the resort's main lobby. Mr. Babatunde now saw her as a rising star, frequently asking for her opinion on how to improve the guest experience. Life finally seemed to be smiling at her, but Adara couldn't shake the feeling that an invisible hand was arranging everything. And then, that hand decided to reveal itself. That afternoon, as Adara was guiding an elderly couple through the resort's amenities, she walked past the lobby cafe. A man sitting alone, engrossed in a large roll of architectural blueprints, suddenly dropped it on the floor. White sheets scattered everywhere. "Oh, I'm so sorry," the man said, looking a bit flustered. "It's no problem," Adara smiled, naturally kneeling down to help him gather them. As their hands accidentally touched over a blueprint, she looked up and recognized the familiar eyes behind the glasses. It was the man she had seen a few times sitting quietly in the restaurant. "Thank you so much," he said, his voice warm and calm. "I'm Emeka. It's a pleasure to meet you, Emeka." "I'm Adara," she replied. "These are beautiful drawings." "I think so too," he smiled. "I hear you're a very excellent employee. It seems the whole resort is talking about you." Adara blushed. "They're just exaggerating." "I don't think so," Emeka said, his gaze meaningful. "Could I buy you a coffee tomorrow? As a thank you for your help. And, to talk about a few things." Adara hesitated, but something about Emeka made her feel she could trust him. She nodded. The next day, they sat opposite each other in that same cafe. Emeka didn't beat around the bush. "Adara," he began. "I'm not here by chance. I am Emeka Ojo." Adara was stunned. Emeka Ojo. Everyone in Crestwater Bay knew that name. The main investor. The genius architect. The powerful man behind the serene vista. The new uniform, the lunch, and the camera footage. She stammered. Was that you? Emeka nodded. I was there, Adara. I saw what Kemi Adebayo did to you, and I couldn't ignore it. He told her about his mother, about her difficult past, about the quiet strength she had instilled in him. When I looked at you that day, I didn't just see a mistreated employee. I saw my mother's image. I saw a dignity that could not be stained. Tears welled up in Adara's eyes. She didn't know what to say. I helped you not out of pity, Emeka continued, his voice full of sincerity. I helped you because I saw potential. Your talent, your resilience, they deserve to be invested in. That's why, on behalf of the Resorts Development Fund, I want to offer you a full scholarship for a degree in International Hotel Management at the Gala Institute in Switzerland, starting next semester. Adara's entire world seemed to stop spinning. Switzerland, a full scholarship. It was a dream she had never even dared to dream. The news that Adara, the waitress, had received a prestigious scholarship from the resort's own investors spread like wildfire, and it reached the ears of Kemi Adebayo. Kemi was in the spa, hearing the news from a friend over the phone. She was furious. That girl, the girl she had washed with coffee, was now being personally uplifted by Emeka Ojo. Envy and a sense of being slighted erupted inside Kemi like a volcano. Adara hadn't just gotten attention. She was taking what Kemi believed was hers, power and admiration in this world. Kemi decided to act. If she couldn't stop Adara with power, she would destroy her with words. That evening, Kemi, as an influencer with hundreds of thousands of followers, posted on her personal page. It was a candid photo of Adara talking to Emeka, accompanied by a venomous caption, "Girls these days are so smart. They know exactly who to accidentally have spill coffee on them to climb the ladder of success. Does Crestwater Bay have a new cinder digger? So sad for the people who actually work hard." The term cinder digger immediately went viral. The post was shared thousands of times. The whispers behind Adara's back now turned into public accusations. Everywhere she went, she was met with judgmental stares and sneers. The comments online were even more brutal. "I know this type of girl. So good at pretending to be innocent. Emeka Ojo is just another rich old man who's into young girls." This humiliation was more painful than the coffee burn. It attacked her character, her hard work. Adara broke down. She locked herself in her room, sobbing. The dream of Switzerland now felt like a curse. She decided to refuse the scholarship, to give everything back in exchange for peace. She called Emeka, her voice trembling. "I can't accept the scholarship anymore, Mr. Ojo. I'm sorry." "Adara." Emeka's voice on the other end was firm. "Don't call me Mr. Ojo. And you are not allowed to give up. This is not your fault." Emeka did not remain silent. He refused to let lies win. He knew that a simple denial would only make things worse. He needed a stronger move. The Crestwater Bay Business magazine had been wanting an exclusive interview with him for a long time. He agreed, on one condition. He would talk about the resort's new scholarship program. The interview was published on the front page. In it, Emeka never mentioned Kemi's name. Instead, he told a story. The story of a young, driven employee who faced adversity with integrity and relentless effort. He praised her as a role model for the future of the hospitality industry. And then he said, his tone sharp as steel, "Our scholarship program was created to find and nurture such talents. We invest in value and character. It's a shame that, in society, there are still petty people hiding behind keyboards, people who always try to pull others down to feel taller themselves. They confuse ambition with opportunism, and they attack what they cannot understand." The message was crystal clear. Emeka wasn't just defending Adara. He was declaring war on Kemi and those like her. The article created a massive wave of support for Adara. But more importantly, it reached Solomon Adebayo, Kemi's father. He was a seasoned businessman who understood that reputation was everything. He called Kemi into his private office and threw the magazine on the table. "I built this empire on honor," he roared, his voice filled with disappointment. "And you are dragging it through the mud out of jealousy for a waitress? You are not just embarrassing yourself. You are embarrassing the entire Adebayo family." The consequences were immediate. Kemi was stripped of her managerial role over all resort marketing activities. Her unlimited credit card was frozen. "Perhaps some time living like a normal person will teach you what humility is," Mr. Adebayo said, his voice as cold as ice. After the storm, Emeka went to find Adara. He found her sitting alone on the beach behind the resort, watching the waves crash on the shore. "You don't have to face this alone," he said softly, sitting down next to her. Adara turned to look at him, her eyes no longer filled with fear, but with gratitude and admiration. "Thank you, Emeka. Not just for the scholarship, but for believing in me when no one else did." "How could I not believe?" Emeka smiled, his gaze tender. "Your integrity shines brighter than any lie." In that moment, under the vibrant orange sunset, their relationship transcended the boundaries of helper and helped. They were two kindred spirits, two warriors who had fought a battle together, and they had won. 1 year later, Crestwater Bay awoke under a golden Sunday. No more crowded buses. Adara was now driving a compact, reliable sedan. She had just pulled up in front of Bright Horizons Elementary School. In the back seat, Ife chirped goodbye, her feet sporting a brand new pair of sneakers. Their life had changed, not ostentatious, not luxurious, but stable and full of hope. Adara was no longer a timid trainee. After an excellent year at the prestigious academy in Switzerland, she had returned to the Serene Vista for her summer internship as the assistant manager of guest experience. Her demeanor now exuded confidence, composure, and a grace honed by knowledge and experience. She was still the kind and humble Adara, but now she knew her worth. That afternoon, while getting coffee at a familiar cafe in town, she happened to see Kemi Adebayo. Kemi was no longer surrounded by an entourage. She sat alone at a corner table, her clothes still elegant, but the overbearing arrogance was gone. When their eyes met, Adara saw only a flicker of unease, and perhaps a hint of regret in the eyes of the girl who had once humiliated her. The contempt was gone. The condescension was gone. Adara just gave a slight, polite nod, a gesture free of judgment, and walked away. She had no time for the past. Her future was waiting. That future shone brightest on the night of the Serene Vista's 5th anniversary gala. The resort's main lobby was magnificently decorated with crystal chandeliers and fresh flowers. The city's elite were all present. Adara walked in arm with Emeka. She wasn't wearing an expensive designer gown, but a simple yet sophisticated sea blue silk dress that complemented her radiant beauty. She didn't need diamonds to shine. Her smile and her eyes were her most precious jewels. Heads turned, not out of curiosity, but with admiration. They were no longer a controversial couple. They were a symbol of elegance and quiet power. Their love wasn't loud. It was present in the proud way Emeka looked at her, in the trusting way she leaned on him. After Solomon Adebayo's speech, in which he publicly apologized for his daughter's past behavior as a way to redeem the family's honor, Mr. Babatunde took the stage. "Tonight," he said, his voice full of emotion, "we want to honor a special individual. Someone who has proven that courage and integrity can overcome any adversity. Someone who has reminded all of us that the true value of the Serene Vista lies not in its luxurious walls, but in the hearts of the people who work here." He looked down at Adara. "Please welcome to the stage, Adara Okoro, the first recipient of our award for excellence and integrity." The hall erupted in applause. Adara took a deep breath, smiled at Emeka, and walked onto the stage. The spotlight shone on her, but she no longer felt afraid. She stood at the microphone, looking out at the expectant faces. "Thank you, everyone," she began, her voice clear and steady. "A year ago, I also stood in this lobby, but with a large stain on my uniform and an even larger fear in my heart." The room fell silent. That stain could have defined me. The harsh words could have drowned me. Many times, I wanted to give up. She paused, her eyes finding Emeka's. "But then I learned that kindness is a power far greater than cruelty, and that one opportunity, no matter how small, can change everything. I stand here today not because I was lucky," she continued, her voice resolute. I stand here on behalf of all the people who start their day before the sun rises. On behalf of those who believe that hard work and treating others with kindness will never go out of style. Our worth is not defined by where we come from, but by the resilience in our journey, and in how we lift up those who walk with us. She smiled. Life might throw mud at you, or sometimes, an entire cup of coffee. But it's not about how you avoid it. It's about how you choose to rise from that very spot. Thunderous applause filled the hall, a sincere and emotional recognition. Adara bowed her head, her heart filled with peace and gratitude. After the party ended and the last guests had departed, Emeka gently took Adara's hand. He said nothing, simply leading her through the silent main lobby, out the doors, and stopped at the exact spot where, a year ago, her life had taken an unexpected turn. The pavement was clean, glistening under the moonlight. "This is where it all began," Emeka whispered. Adara looked down at the ground, no longer feeling the pain or humiliation. "It used to be a terrible place," she said softly. "Now, to me, it's the starting line of a wonderful journey." "You changed this place, Adara," Emeka said, turning her to face him. He took a small box from his pocket. Inside was a silver necklace with a small, exquisite compass pendant. "So you'll never lose your way, no matter where the journey takes you. You changed me," he continued, his voice filled with emotion. "You reminded me of what's truly important." Adara smiled, happy tears glistening in her eyes. Emeka gently fastened the necklace around her neck. Under the starry sky of Crestwater Bay, they stood there, two people from two different worlds, now sharing one heartbeat. The coffee stain from that day had long since dried, but from that stain, a flower had bloomed. A flower that not only changed its own life but also illuminated the world around it. And that was only the beginning. Our story ends here. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on more compelling and meaningful stories like this one. Thank you for listening. See you in the next story.